Hello and welcome. Tonight, Christians in Nigeria join their counterparts across the world to commemorate the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, a day of reflection on the price he paid for the salvation of humanity. Community outreach, as well as acts of charity and compassion. Meanwhile, various churches have marked the day with services and other activities. We captured the mood at the Covenant Nation Church in Lagos and the St. Peter Cathedral in the Diocese of Bukuru in Plateau State.
At the Covenant Nation Igomu, it's a Passover service, and worshippers use the occasion to express gratitude to God with songs of thanksgiving. Drawing inspiration from the books of Exodus 12 and Matthew 26, senior pastor of the church, Boju Oyemade, enjoins the people to harbor no grudge even when being victimized.
What is the unleavened bread, uncles? And this is what you have to do this morning, that you judge yourself. That listen, a person who partakes of this was fired from the office and knows the only thing that can stop me from going to the next place if I hold something in my heart against those who fired me.
He also prays for members as they partake of the Holy Communion.
As your people today, bring to remembrance the death of Jesus. Your career, your property, and every member of your family is set free in the mighty name of Jesus Christ.
Pastor Boju Oyemade leaves a message to believers and the nation.
Nation building has to do not even with how good the roads are, whether we have light or water. That's state building. Nation building is about the unity of the people and having a common goal and vision. Because the people who are not united can achieve very little.
Meanwhile, at the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion of the St. Peter's Cathedral, Plateau State, the atmosphere is solemn, a reflection of the agony Christ suffered on the day of his crucifixion. With solemn hymns and reading of the gospel verses from the book of Luke chapter 17, the message of forgiveness is established by the curate of the cathedral.
And then while hanging on the cross, the offense against him was still on. They had just nailed him. He was still there, still feeling the pain. And then he was sitting there, laughing at him, mocking him, making jests of him. And then he said, "Forgive them, Lord. They don't know what they do."
The service is done, and the Bishop of the Anglican Communion, Diocese of Bukuru, draws a link between the price Christ paid and the challenge of the average Nigerian.
This kind of day, such as Jesus came, that the burden of men may be lifted up. And we pray that by what he has done on the cross for us today, which we commemorate, the burdens of the people of Plateau State, the people in Zamfara, the people in Maiduguri, Yobe, and indeed the whole of Nigeria will be lifted up.
While Christians look forward to celebrating his eventual resurrection, the faithful hope that the message of peace, unity, compassion is upheld, so the sacrifice of Christ is not in vain.
As Christians commemorate Easter, the President has sent out his warm greetings to the faithful in Nigeria and around the world and wishing them a happy Easter. In a Statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngalale, President Bola Tinubu observed that the sacrifice of Jesus Christ for humanity is an emphatic lesson for leaders and all Nigerians to yield to selflessness and compassion and be steadfast in the pursuit of a united, peaceful and prosperous nation. Also in the statement, the president strongly commends Nigerians for the sacrifices they have made in the past few months for the nation to be steered to the path of recovery and sustainable growth, assuring them that the seeds of patience which they have sown are beginning to sprout and will in no time bring forth an abundance of good fruits. He maintains that as Christians celebrate the victory of life over death as exemplified by the resurrection of Christ, Nigeria will indeed triumph over its challenges as his administration remains firmly committed to this end. Also in the spirit of the season, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State is asking Nigerians to be hopeful of a better country. According to the governor, the naira is beginning to appreciate in value. Therefore, business owners should reflect the changes in their cost of goods and not make things more difficult for the people. He made this comment at the Lagos House in Alausa Ikeja after a combined special prayer for Nigeria and President Bola Tinubu in commemoration of Easter and Ramadan.
I want to wish all Lagosians, all of our Christian faiths, the best celebration of this Easter period. As we have just ended the Christian Lenten service, I believe that it's been a worthy journey for all of our Christian brothers and sisters, who had gone, in fasting, to ask, for strengthening of our state, of our country, and to also coincidentally, we're 19th day of Ramadan as well. So everything around, prayer and supplication are working well. The dollar that all of us thought that it would never rebound, you can see that the naira is becoming stronger. It's getting weight, and it's becoming a lot more currency that we're all appreciating. You can even see from new policies that the central bank is bringing out, naira savings is now the order of the day. So you should be happy as Nigerians, as holding on to your currency, and which will improve our exchange of value. So those are some of the messages we need to take forward. And this needs to reflect in our market. People cannot continue to give reasons while it went up, and now that it's coming down, it also needs to reflect, in the cost of rice, in the cost of beans, in the cost of tomato, and that's a message for all of us, because we want to be our brothers' keepers. We want to ensure that, the suffering, we need to bring an end to it. I want to thank Mr. President, for taking the leadership, for working with all the sub-nationals, for taking the leadership, and for believing in his government. And we're beginning to see, the benefit of it.
To other stories, the traditional ruler of Enugu Kingdom in Ughelli South, Clement Ikolo, who turned himself in to the Delta State Police Command yesterday, has been handed over to the military, according to the Delta State Police Command. Mr. Ikolo is one of the 8 people declared wanted by the Defense Headquarters in connection with the killing of the 17 Army personnel in Okwama, a town under Enugu Kingdom, on March the 14th. Now, before going to the State Police Command headquarters, the monarch told journalists that he was innocent of the allegation of involvement in the murder. Meanwhile, Governor Doye Diri of Bayelsa State is calling on the military to arrest the culprits involved in the Okwama crisis in Delta State, during which the 17 Army personnel lost their lives. The governor, who was speaking publicly on the matter for the first time during the Security Council meeting at Government House in Yenagoa, described the incident as senseless and barbaric. He also commends the military for the professionalism they exhibited during the raid of Igbo Motoro community in the state.
And as that happened, our own call is very clear. Whoever that has committed these dastardly acts, whoever that has committed these barbaric acts, whoever that has sponsored it, those people should be fished out, so that it will act as a deterrent to any criminal who is thinking on that lines. And for us as a state, we will continue to support the military. We will continue to support all security paraphernalia that is in our states.
Meanwhile, the military's resolve to fish out the killers of the army personnel appears not to sit well with the human rights lawyer, Mr. Femi Falana, who is urging the armed forces to handle the case with caution and not bungle it. The senior advocate of Nigeria in a statement notes that the armed forces should be made to realize that the military cannot arrest, detain, investigate and charge civilian suspects with any offense whatsoever. On the Defense Headquarters declaration of 8 people wanted over the murder of the army personnel, Mr. Falana explains that it is trite law that the police and security agencies lack the power to declare any suspect wanted without a court order, adding that the action is completely illegal. Citing cases, Mr. Falana maintains that the military also does not have the power to arrest anyone without following the appropriate procedure. He then urged the federal government to call the Defense Headquarters to order and hand over the investigation of the matter to the appropriate authority. In part 2, after the break, police arrest 7 persons over the death of an Islamic cleric, Sheikh Abubakar Mada, said to have been gruesomely murdered in Zamfara State. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Christians in Nigeria joined their counterparts across the world to commemorate the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, a day of reflection on the price he paid for the salvation of humanity. The president challenges leaders and all Nigerians.
Earlier day, after some leaders of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State ignored partisanship and declared their support for the president, the state's All Progressives Congress seems to be in agreement with the PDP leaders as it restates support for President Bola Tinubu in his efforts to rebuild Nigeria.
That was so fearful.
Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the chairman of the party in the state, Mr. Tony Okocha, says the onslaught on President Tinubu and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, by some members of the PDP is only a smear campaign.
We're asking, why are they calling out and trolling Mr. President, the leader of our party, in such a derogatory manner? Why are they threatening the fragile peace in Rivers State? What counsels have they given against the profligacies of the PDP-led government in Rivers State? Are they not ringleaders of the weekly rip-off of Governor Siminalayi Fubara and Rivers State coffers through ostentatious jamborees conducted in the 23 LGAs of Rivers State, dubbed Thanksgiving for Supreme Court victory of Governor Fubara? Isn't that absurd?
Over in Rivers State, it's a full house at Isiokpo, council headquarters of the Ikwere local government area, as many political players are here to show their support and solidarity for President Tinubu and the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike. For the Ikwere local government area chairman, people voted for President Tinubu after due consultations amongst themselves. He calls on the state government to re-strategize its intention for the people of Ikwere.
We are proud and happy to tell our story to the world that our decision to vote Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president of Nigeria when he was the presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress in the last election has paid off for the people of Ikwere local government.
Among the stakeholders here are the current Commissioner for Education and the State APC Publicity Secretary, both of whom weigh in on the matter.
He is a man that is filled with gratitude, and that is why to show appreciation for what Ikwere people did for him and Rivers State at large, and even the South-South geopolitical zone, he appointed our own son, our own leader, our own brother, the first person from the South-South, in fact outside the North, to be the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. Let me use this ample opportunity further to congratulate Ikwere stakeholders and Ikwere local government constituents as well as voters for your decision you made in support of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
The political atmosphere in Rivers State continues to assume different forms, but the call for unity and purposeful leadership appears to be echoing in both camps.
Away from politics now, 5 inmates of a correctional center in Yola, the Adamawa state capital, have regained their freedom. This is courtesy of the Catholic Bishop of Yola Diocese, Bishop Dami Mamza, who deplored their continued incarceration due to their inability to pay fines. Bishop Mamza, who also donated various items to the inmates, appealed to them to be of good behavior and seek spiritual transformation in and out of the correctional facility.
The message of Easter is love and sacrifice. The Catholic Bishop of Yola Diocese, Dami Mamza, is taking this message to the Yode Pate Correctional Center in Yola, the Adamawa state capital. Of concern to him is the condition of the inmates, some of whom are incarcerated for their inability to pay fines. 5 of them are lucky as he secures their release. He also donates food items, toiletries, and drugs for the benefits of the inmates.
Prove to everybody that you are a very good person. Whether it was a false accusation or true, if it were a false accusation, go and prove it out there that you were accused falsely by doing well, by doing good. And if probably you happen to be guilty of what you were accused of and you have been released, now show a change of heart, be a different person out there, so that you be a shining example for others in order to imitate.
The Catholic bishop uses the opportunity to appeal to government to provide places of worship in the correctional centers across the country as part of efforts to correct the inmates. One of the 5 inmates who regained their freedom is grateful for the kind gesture of the bishop.
So we have a missing property that's lost. I'm the one working in the shop. I'm the accusation. So they took me to prison system. I've never seen anybody that come to me. So today I thank God and I give His glory for the great opportunity today.
This is not the first time the bishop has done this sort of act. He believes acts like this will help the inmates at the correctional center see the need to turn a new leaf.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Latest report from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows the economy recorded over $1.5 billion in forex inflow in March. That's on business news. Please stay with us.
To send your body money, but you don't get time for internet story. You don't need to dey waka with plenty money. Carry phone make you dial the number 894. Make you know they wait 894. No need to dey chat for line 894. It is safe and secure 894.
Dial *894# to get started. Powered by First Bank.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
All of us like to chop better food. Food where they make body tranga and vegetables wey fresh like say tomorrow not day. We want make the chocolate sweet the way we go like them. No cubes. Now be the secret. They make them with correct ingredients like chicken, parsley, garlic, plenty iron corn full and palm to make your chocolate palm bar for you. Come the sweet well. Now be the cocoa. Make we carry salute, throw away give no. Change your world by changing waiting to your plate.
Welcome back to the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. The Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodimma, has called for a comprehensive audit of all abandoned projects embarked upon by the Niger Delta Development Commission and the Ministry of Niger Delta, with a view to ensuring that all projects are completed in due time. Governor Uzodimma made this call at the Government House in Owerri, the Imo State capital, during a courtesy visit by the Minister of Niger Delta Development, Abubakar Momo. The governor faults the activities of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs and the NDDC, especially in the area of project implementation. Our correspondent, Eitokbe Kutei, reports.
The Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Abubakar Momo, a team from the Ministry, the Niger Delta Development Commission, and the Chairman House Committee on Niger Delta Affairs, Eugene Dibiagu, are at the Government House in Owerri on a courtesy visit to the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodimma. As one of the oil-producing states in Nigeria, the aim of the visit is to seek ways to continue the partnership with the state and ensure that the policies and programs of the Ministry of Niger Delta and the Niger Delta Development Commission has a positive effect on the people.
We are here to solicit your support and your cooperation to see that whatever we are doing, we are able to succeed. It is only through the cooperation of you governors in this very region that we'll be able to succeed in our assignment, because you achieve meaningful development for the Niger Delta region.
Governor Uzodimma promises that his government will continue to partner with the ministry to make life more meaningful for the people. Nevertheless, laments the level of abandoned projects executed by Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs and NDDC.
The method for implementing projects, not only in the region, but particularly in Imo State, where 90% of your projects are abandoned, and those that are almost completed, not put into use. I want to say that under my watch, the government of Imo State will continue to support and partner with the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs and other intervention agencies to ensure that our people are served better and the quality of life made meaningful to our people.
The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs was created on September 10, 2008 to promote and coordinate policies for the development, peace, and security of the Niger Delta region. It also serves as a primary vehicle for the execution of government plans and programs for rapid socio-economic development of the Niger Delta. Eitokbe Kutei, Channels Television News.
Health Matters now calls for corrective action against the spread of tuberculosis have echoed in Oyo State with messages to stop TB transmission by embracing zero stigma, improved adherence to shorter treatment regimen and awareness. To commemorate the 2024 World TB Day, health workers, caregivers, volunteers, TB survivors, and other stakeholders joined the World Health Organization in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, to call for action to ensure that commitments made to end the disease are achieved.
It's a small gathering in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, but the discussion is essential as it centers on the future of tuberculosis treatment and the hope it represents to sufferers, as the duration for TB treatment has now been compressed into a shorter regimen.
If we want to end TB, we need to have increased government commitment to ending TB. We need to have increased engagement of the private sector, the business sector, and we need to have increased commitment of communities towards ending TB. It's not a one-man's job. We all have to do it together.
A TB survivor who has gone through the pains of stigma and trauma of long treatment explains how she overcame the experience and encourages others who are suffering in silence.
The regimens are shorter now, unlike what obtained before. So we have to, all hands have to be on deck, and we have to encourage anyone that comes up with these symptoms to go for get tested and get treated. Treatment and tests are free.
She pleads for an end to stigmatization and more awareness, as there are many treatment options with shorter duration.
The truth is that people who don't have TB, they don't want to have anything to do with TB. But if the rich man says, I don't have an issue with TB, what of his driver that has TB? And they are locked up in the AC together. What happens? So please, this is also a passionate appeal. When we get back, let's spread the message that yes, we can end TB.
However, there appears to be a huge gap in the resources needed to fund a national response to TB, and there's an appeal for more commitment from the government, private sector, and other stakeholders to achieve success.
We want to say finally that in Nigeria, it is documented that we have a 70% gap in terms of resources that is needed in funding the national TB response. So, this is for us to ensure that not a single person who needs treatment, prevention, care, and support is left behind.
The WHO theme for this year is Yes, We Can End TB. To achieve this, stakeholders have been encouraged to work to bridge the gaps in awareness and access to treatment across the country.
In Enugu State, Governor Peter Mba has challenged the newly inaugurated Governing Council of the State University of Science and Technology to complement the management of the institution and enable it to achieve its objective of delivering sound education. Governor Mba gave this charge at the inauguration ceremony, which held at a government house in Enugu. According to him, the council must bring value to the table while overseeing the finance and investment of the institution for proper accountability.
It is my hope that you're going to cultivate a harmonious relationship with the management team of the university. You should both see yourselves as your duties as complementary. That is the only way we can achieve the objective of the university. Of course, our expectation is that you're going to put in place effective control in the area of management of finance and investment of the university, and that you're going to see yourself as bringing value to what the management team of the university is doing. We shouldn't, obviously, by the time a governing council begin to work at cross purposes with that of the management of the university, then the objective for which you are here today appointed will not be realized.
And that's a wrap from the nation's capital. Ayos is the moment to wish you a happy Easter. Back to you.
Many thanks, Terry.
In other stories, the Nigeria-Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry has held its quarterly business meeting for the year 2024 in Lagos. The forum was put in place to find ways to deepen the existing relationship and provide effective path to new partnerships and investors. At the event, political economist and management expert Professor Rotimi emphasized the key objectives of this year's meeting, while the president of the chamber gave an insight into the prevailing market conditions and potential areas for collaboration.
The last quarter, we'll find out that there has been a investors' visit to Nigeria from Vietnam, people in the confectionery sector. They have visited Nigeria in search of a place to invest and set up a confectionery business in Nigeria. Also, the Nigeria-Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry has been in the forefront of promoting the establishment of a microchip and semiconductor production plant in Nigeria.
I've carried this comparison of Nigeria and Vietnam from the Civil War days in Nigeria. And so we traveled to Vietnam to look at the changes, the dramatic transformation of that country. Everywhere I went in Vietnam, I was like, I don't know if you have traveled to Vietnam. It's a remarkable country.
Now, time for business news with Will Ibom. Will.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first. First Bank.
Thank you, Ayotunde, and welcome to Business News. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has reported a significant influx of over $1.5 billion into the economy, signaling the success of its monetary policy interventions. The CBN's acting director of corporate communications, Mrs. Alkama Sidi Ali, attributes this positive development to the bank's efforts to stabilize the foreign exchange market. Mrs. Ali notes that the naira strengthened, trading at 1,309 naira against the dollar compared to 1,611 naira to a dollar earlier this month. Recently, the CBN's Monetary Policy Committee raised its benchmark rate from 22.75% to 24.75%, which has seen foreign portfolio investors flock to the fixed income markets due to higher interest rates. And the CBN says it is intensifying oversight on the banking sector's recapitalization to block illicit funds. According to the CBN Director of Financial Policy and Regulation, Mr. Aruna Mustafa, the measure is to prevent illegal money from entering banks. The statement, addressed to banks and promoters of proposed banks, emphasizes the CBN's collaboration with law enforcement agencies to ensure the capital raised during the recapitalization exercise is legitimate. It also stresses robust anti-money laundering procedures, including thorough Know Your Customer (KYC) checks and monitoring of suspicious transactions. However, bankers oppose the exclusion of retained earnings from the share capital calculation. Still on the CBN, it says it is removing transaction limits of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, a vital cross-border financial infrastructure facilitating seamless payment transactions across Africa. And this was made known in a statement signed by the CBN's Director of the Trade and Exchange Department, Mr. Hassan Mahmoud. This move follows recent efforts by the CBN to liberalize the FX markets and stimulate forex inflows. Previously, the CBN had imposed restrictions on dollar transactions through PAPS, with authorized dealer banks limited to $200,000 per quarter and customers restricted to $20,000 per quarter. Now, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, says it requires about $5.2 billion to address infrastructure deficit and help achieve its main objective of improving the economic growth of the region. The Commissioner for Infrastructure, Energy and Digitalization, Mr. Sediko Duka, told journalists in Abuja that leaders of the region had in 2009 approved the creation of an ECOWAS fund for the development and financing of the transport and energy sectors. Mr. Duka explained that the fund is dedicated to financing regional infrastructure, and it is financed by taxing member states' main export resources like agriculture, oil and gas, as well as natural minerals.
It's based on exportation of mining, agriculture, oil and gas product exportation through a taxation system. So many countries, it's true that they are saying, look, if you tax our product, they cannot be competitive the other side vis-a-vis other product of the other countries. So this is one of the challenges that we have. It's why countries now, they resist on creating this very important fund, as I told you, that we can generate if they accept what I said. Most of our DISCO for Nigeria or equivalent of power public utilities for the other countries have problem of management, have problem of treasury because of the loss of energy, because of the management, particularly the loss of energy. Because you cannot imagine, for example, in Europe today, the loss of energy is only around 6% or 6 to 8%, where in our countries you can find the loss of 40%, 30%, or some rare case 50%, which is not acceptable, I think.
Now, Nigeria's NGX and other major equities are closed for the Easter holidays, except for some markets in Asia. Let's have a look again at
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Will. Pope Francis today skipped the traditional Good Friday procession at Rome's Colosseum to preserve his health ahead of the Easter celebration. Now, the pontiff was expected to preside over the Way of the Cross procession, which reenacts Christ's passion and crucifixion. But just as the event was about to begin, the Vatican announced that Pope Francis was joining the ceremony from his home at the Vatican. Here's Simon Pusey with other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has delivered a blunt warning that Europe has entered a pre-war era, and if Ukraine is defeated by Russia, nobody in Europe will be able to feel safe. His remarks come as a fresh barrage of Russian missiles targeted Ukraine. Russia has intensified its bombardment of Ukraine in recent weeks. Ukraine's Air Force said it had shot down 58 drones and 26 missiles, with Ukraine's Prime Minister saying energy infrastructure has been damaged in 6 regions in the west, centre and east of the country. The UN's top court has ordered Israel to enable the unhindered flow of aid into Gaza in order to avert a famine. In a unanimous decision, the International Court of Justice said Israel had to act without delay to allow the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian assistance. This follows warnings that famine could hit Gaza within weeks. Israel has called the allegations it is blocking aid wholly unfounded. It said that Hamas was to blame for the situation in Gaza and for starting the war. Maryland's governor has provided early details of his plan to clean up wreckage after a cargo ship hit a major bridge in Baltimore, killing 6 people. The Biden administration has approved $60 million in emergency funds that Maryland has requested to help. Governor Wes Moore outlined how they intended to clear debris, remove the ship, extract bridge pieces, and rebuild it.
We submitted an initial $60 million request to the Biden-Harris administration for initial mobilization, operations, and debris recovery efforts. And I can report that as of this afternoon, the Biden-Harris administration has approved that request. We are deeply grateful to President Biden, to Secretary Buttigieg, to our federal delegation, and all of our federal partners. I was thankful to receive a call just about an hour ago from Secretary Buttigieg. And I'm grateful for the way that the administration has continued to lean in and support us.
45 people have died in South Africa after the bus they were in plunged some 50 meters off a bridge into a ravine. An 8-year-old girl, the only survivor, sustained serious injuries but is now in a stable condition. The bus crashed through a barrier and caught fire when it hit the ground in northeastern Limpopo province. 34 body bags have been taken from the scene, but only 9 bodies are identifiable. The passengers were pilgrims travelling from Botswana's capital to an Easter service in the town of Moria. Sam Bankman-Fried, co-founder of the failed crypto exchange FTX, has been sentenced to 25 years in prison for defrauding customers and investors of his now bankrupt firm. The ruling cements the downfall of the former billionaire, who emerged as a high-profile champion of crypto before his firm's dramatic collapse in 2022. He was found to have stolen billions from customers ahead of the failure. Bankman-Fried's legal team will appeal against his conviction. US President Joe Biden has hosted a record-breaking election fundraiser in New York alongside his predecessors Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. His team said the star-studded evening at Radio City Music Hall raised over $26 million for the campaign, a record for a single political event. The president has a cash advantage over Republican Donald Trump, meaning he can spend more on advertising in key states. Polls suggest the race for the White House rests on a knife edge. Mr. Trump attacked the event's guest list as deranged Hollywood liberals. South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma has been involved in a car crash but was unhurt. Police say a drunk driver collided with his official armoured state vehicle, but a leading member of the party alleged that he had been targeted. He has been suspended by the governing African National Congress and is campaigning with the MK ahead of May's general election. And Chinese smartphone maker Xiaomi has launched its first electric. At the launch event, the tech SU7 priced 100 yuan, or 29,000. The firm says it received over 50,000 orders within the first 27 minutes of sales. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Abia North local government areas emerged champions of the maiden edition of the Abia Governor Secondary School's Unity Games with a total of 61 medals. At the closing ceremony, the governor, Alex Oti, represented by his chief of staff, Caleb Ajagba, while commending the athletes, says the state government will continue to change the negative narratives in the states.
Once again, I want to congratulate every one of you. And this is a foretaste of what the new Abia, under His Excellency, the Governor of Abia State, is all about. The first edition of the Unity Games, we saw him live here, where he said categorically that he wants Abia State youth and indeed sports development in Abia State to be considered as an industry.
Coach Xavi Alonso, who is seen by many as Liverpool's top target to replace Jurgen Klopp as their manager, has confirmed earlier today he is staying at Bundesliga leaders Bayern Leverkusen next season. The 42-year-old Spaniard has Leverkusen on course for a treble, including their first ever German league crown. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta says he has to put his friendship with Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola aside, with the two clubs battling for the Premier League title. The two sides face off at the Etihad on Sunday, with just 1 point separating third-place City from leaders Arsenal. And that's it on sports. It's back to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Chris. And the main news again. Christians in Nigeria today joined their counterparts across the world to commemorate the crucifixion.